I'm Jennifer, and this is Book Talk. Today's book is one I just finished last night, and it is called The Devil in Spring by Lisa Kelpsey, I believe is how you say her last name. An enticing wallflower. Most debutantes dream of finding a husband. Lady Pandora Ravenel has different plans. The ambitious young beauty would much rather stay at home and plot out her new board game business than take part in the London season. But one night at a glittering social ball, she's ensnared in a scandal with a wickedly handsome stranger. A cynical rake. After years of evading marital traps with ease, Gabriel, Lord St. Vincent, has finally been caught by a rebellious girl who couldn't be less suitable. In fact, she wants nothing to do with him. But Gabriel finds the high-spirited Pandora irresistible. He'll do whatever it takes to possess her, even if their marriage of convenience turns out to be the devil's own bargain. A perilous plot. After succumbing to Gabriel's skills and sensuous persuasions, Pandora agrees to become his bride. But soon she discovers her enterprisal endeavors have accidentally involved her in a dangerous conspiracy, and only her husband can keep her safe. As Gabriel protects her from their unknown adversaries, they realize their devil's bargain may just turn out to be a match made in heaven. Now, this book is a little different from the other Victorian romance book I talked about, The Husband Hunt. As you remember, the girl in that book was on the search for a husband. She wanted to find a husband. Pandora is the opposite end of the spectrum. She doesn't want a husband. And the main reason she gives in the book is that women of this time period, unlike women of today, when they married, they lost their identity. They didn't have anything in their names. Everything that belonged to them belonged to their husband. Their husband had to say everything. And Pandora, having this board game business, she wanted to have a say in what was going on in the business. And I'm sorry, I have a bit of a cough here. She was afraid that if she married, then Gabriel was going to take control of her business, and she didn't want that. She wanted to have control of her business. But she does eventually fall in love with him kind of near the middle of the book, and he falls in love with her. And they do marry, and he does everything he can to try and keep the business solely in her control. And it's not your typical love story, like Victorian love story book, as it doesn't really focus on the courting and the social season. I mean, they get married fairly early on in the book. Like I say, like right near the middle of the book is when they get married. Where in a lot of these romance books, they either get married near the end of the book, or they get married at the very beginning of the book, and if they get married at the very beginning of the book, it's due to a scandal, and they don't really like each other. They're just getting married to protect the girl's reputation, and they eventually, through the course and the events of the book, end up falling in love with each other. This one's a little different. There is a scandal. They do try to do everything they can to cover it up and protect her reputation. And her sister's reputation, as she has a twin sister as well in this book. And whatnot, but she does eventually fall in love with him, and he falls in love with her before they get married, actually. And then the rest of the book is that is through there, and is, you know, just, you know, them living together and whatnot, and her starting her business. Really great book. I really loved it. It showed kind of a different side to the Victorian romance stories that I'm used to. The second half of the book is her building up her business. And she really wants to focus on her business being predominantly with women. She wants to support women who are widows and trying to raise their children, or, you know, just support themselves, or women who aren't married who are just, you know, trying to support themselves or support their parents, their siblings, and whatnot. So she primarily wants that. Another thing you have to understand about this book is that her and her twin sister and her, I believe it's her older sister, basically had absolutely no coaching in court procedures or in high class procedures like the other young debutantes. And this was due to the fact that their parents really didn't want daughters. They wanted a son to carry on the family name, and they did eventually get him, but then shortly after he was married, he died. So when the daughters were born, they basically left them to their own devices, and they were allowed to just do whatever the heck they wanted to do, and they weren't taught how to be proper young ladies, which is an rarity during this time period, the time period the book takes place in, as young girls of high stature were taught from birth how to act like ladies. So when they got old enough to become debutantes and would go to balls and whatnot, they would know how to behave. They would know how to dress, how to talk to men and other women, how to dance, how to sew, you know, how to do all the things that high-class ladies were expected to do. And these girls weren't. Another thing you have to understand about Pandora is that she has some problems with her balance. It's part of the reason why she's a wallflower. She has trouble hearing in one ear, and it affects her equilibrium. And that's another part of the reason why she's a bit of a wallflower, because her equilibrium is what gives you your balance. For those of you who didn't know that, she has trouble with spinning, and a lot of the dances at that time had spinning in them. And she would always get off balance and fall a lot because of that. So her solution was to avoid it. And again, when he finds out about this, Gabriel does everything he can to kind of help her with that. So he basically, when he learns all these little things about her, goes out of his way to make her feel comfortable with him. And to me, I'm like, that's someone who truly loves her. He's not really trying to change her. He's just trying to make her more comfortable. So when they do have to go out to parties and dances and other social engagements, as is customary, she knows how to behave, and she's comfortable in that environment. And I really like that. And the adversaries in here, there are some Irish people living in there, and this book was written in, let's see if I can find a date, because sometimes I'll write the date down. Prologue. Hold on one second. This book was, takes place in the 1800s, like 1877 is when it ends. So I'd say 1877. Yeah, it takes place in 1877, I would believe. And during the time, there were some Irish immigrants living in England, and there was a movement called Home Rule. And I'm not 100% sure if this was actually something that was taking place in England at the time. You'd have to actually look it up on a historical website, but it is taking place in the book. And I'm assuming since this is a historical romance book, it probably did, but I would not quote me on that. But anyway, so, she, there was, I think that the, royal family was setting up called Home Rule, where the, Irish immigrants would be allowed to, from what I could gather, would be allowed to rule themselves and whatnot. And some people in England were very opposed to that. And there were some radical Irish groups that were going against the English government in secret. And then there were some English groups that were trying to make the Irish people look bad, and, you know, a lot of political stuff going on in this book as well, but they don't touch too much on that. But that's where the whole adversary thing comes in, because she kind of sees something that people want to keep, that certain people want to keep quiet. But all in all, it's a good book. I would definitely read it again. I definitely recommend it. I have not read any of her other books, so if I ever find any, I will probably check them out. I actually got this book at work. I just kind of, every once in a while, like to cruise through the magazine book section at work. And it's not a very big section, as we are not a bookstore. But I like to cruise through there every now and then, just kind of see what we've got. And I saw the cover for this, and I thought, oh, wow, no, I'll give it a shot. Well, first I read the back to make sure it wasn't like a drippy romance novel, and it wasn't. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'll give it a shot. I'll see how I like it, and I did like it a lot. A couple of other historical romance books I like a little more than this one, but it's still a good book. It didn't touch too much on the romance side too much, so I guess that's why it's not one of my favorites, but I still did like it. I do recommend it. It's really, really good. It's a really sweet love story. Like I said, the first half really focuses more on the Victorian romance. The second half focuses more on just the rest of the story. So it's like, okay, so just kind of keep that in mind when you read it. But it's still a great book. And that's really about all I have to say about it. Feel free to leave your questions and opinions in the comment section. I love to read those, and they do help me out a lot. Be sure to like and subscribe. That also helps me out a lot. And follow me on Facebook. And, you know, also feel free to follow me on Instagram and Twitter. The information will be in the description section. I'm Jennifer. This has been Book Talk. Thank you for visiting my library, and I will see you next time.